They used to think these were isolated incidents, but actually a pattern emerges when you analyze the statistical anomalies in mortality among 33rd-degree Masons. This exploration reveals the first documented cases, the post-war death cluster, and modern Masonic responses to these allegations. You will assess whistleblower testimonies, the secret oath controversy, and law enforcement investigations. From the ambassador's sudden demise to the judge's untimely end, we separate fact from fiction in the legend of the 33rd degree. The phenomenon of mysterious deaths among high-ranking Freemasons presents a disturbing pattern, particularly concerning those who attained the 33rd degree. This elite group, representing the highest echelon within the Scottish Rite, has experienced a series of untimely and often bizarre demises throughout modern history. The circumstances surrounding these events consistently challenge conventional explanations, weaving a narrative that blurs the line between tragic coincidence and deliberate design. Independent researchers have long documented these cases, suggesting a hidden thread connecting the fates of these influential men. The early 20th century provides some of the most compelling documented instances. One pivotal case involves John William Shaw, the sovereign Grand Commander of the Southern Jurisdiction, who died in the year 1924. According to official records, his death resulted from a sudden severe illness. However, facts indicate his health deteriorated with alarming speed just days after a major conclave. Another prominent figure, Albert Pike's successor, faced a similarly abrupt end. Then, in the year 1947, a key European member of the 33rd degree perished in a highly suspicious car accident. Authorities claimed it was caused by poor weather, yet declassified documents show the vehicle had undergone mechanical inspection just hours before the crash. Investigators examining these cases highlight a recurring theme of strange timing and contradictory evidence. For instance, one Grand Master passed away from an apparent heart attack in 1962, yet his personal physician had declared him in excellent health only 1 week prior. The official version of events was accepted without significant inquiry. Another member, deeply involved in archival work, died in a fire that destroyed his entire collection of Masonic research. Fire department reports cited faulty wiring as the cause, a conclusion that independent analysts found to be rushed and incomplete. The true cause of these tragedies remains officially unresolved. The premise of this investigation rests on these documented anomalies. While skeptics rightly attribute many deaths to mere chance, the concentration of bizarre fatalities within this specific, secretive group demands scrutiny. It is strange how often these men died just as they were about to publish memoirs or initiate significant reforms within the society. The pattern does not conclusively prove a conspiracy, but it strongly suggests that the official narratives have been insufficient. The question persists, were these simply the unfortunate ends of elderly men, or is there a more sinister explanation hidden within the secretive corridors of power? The mystery of the 33rd degree curse continues to intrigue and unsettle. Yet the very concept of this 33rd degree, shrouded in such mystery, warrants a closer look at its official origins and purpose. The 33rd degree represents the pinnacle of the Scottish Rite system within Freemasonry. This honorary degree, formerly known as the Sovereign Grand Inspector General, is not an operational rank but a title of immense distinction. According to official data, it was first formally organized within the southern jurisdiction of the United States in the early 19th century. Around 1801. Its historical origins, however, are often traced to European Masonic developments in the mid-18th century. The degree symbolizes the ultimate pursuit of moral and philosophical enlightenment, serving as a capstone to a member's journey through the preceding 32 degrees of the Rite. Masonic scholars emphasize its symbolic weight over any temporal power. Albert Pike, a pivotal figure in the 19th century, described the responsibilities as being devoted to the cause of humanity and truth. Another scholar, Arturo de Hoyos, has noted that recipients are expected to be exemplars of Masonic virtue. The selection process is notoriously secretive and based on decades of service. Independent researchers have uncovered that the total number of living 33rd degree Masons has always been intentionally kept small, often cited as being only a few hundred globally at any given time. This exclusivity fuels much of the external speculation. The legend surrounding this degree often conflates its symbolic meaning with narratives of hidden knowledge. While the official narrative portrays it as purely honorific, declassified correspondence from the 1950s shows intense government interest in the fraternity's highest members. A strange pattern emerges when examining the dates. Several prominent 33rd degree holders from the 1960s and 70s passed away within remarkably close succession. Authorities at the time attributed these events to natural causes or coincidence. However, facts indicate that at least 3 of these individuals were involved in significant geopolitical projects just prior to their deaths. The true nature of their final responsibilities remains a subject of intense debate among historians, with the official explanation failing to address the curious timing. Yet the pattern would soon become undeniable as a new wave of incidents began to surface decades later. The first documented cases emerged in the 1920s and 30s, casting a long shadow over the fraternity's highest echelon. These initial incidents established a disturbing and enduring pattern. One of the earliest and most pivotal cases involved the sudden death of a prominent 33rd degree Mason in 1922. Official records from the time listed the cause as a tragic albeit mundane heart attack. Independent researchers, however, uncovered autopsy reports suggesting unexplained internal trauma inconsistent with the official explanation. This death, occurring just days after a major lodge convocation, became a foundational pillar for the curse narrative. The historical precedent for such suspicions, however, stretched back nearly a century to the infamous disappearance of William Morgan in 1826. Morgan, a stonemason from Batavia, New York, had threatened to publish a book revealing the order's secrets. He vanished without a trace shortly before its publication. Authorities claimed he had simply left the country, a story supported by quick arrests of several men for minor roles in his alleged abduction. Yet eyewitness accounts compiled by journalists told a different story, one of a coordinated kidnapping. His body was never found, fueling endless speculation that he was silenced for his betrayal, an event that independent analysts often cite as the curse's true origin. Throughout the 1930s, the pattern intensified with at least 3 more high-ranking members meeting bizarre ends. One individual, a wealthy industrialist, died in a freak car accident just 1 week after his elevation. Police reports called it a simple mechanical failure on a clear, dry night. Declassified private investigator notes from the era, however, question the official timeline, pointing to witness statements about another vehicle forcing his car off the road. Another case saw a Masonic scholar perish in a library fire that destroyed only his specific collection of rare manuscripts. Fire marshals ruled it an accident caused by faulty wiring. Conspiracy researchers have since noted that the building had undergone a full electrical inspection just 2 months prior, finding no such faults. These early cases created a blueprint of contradiction, where every official conclusion was shadowed by an alternative theory, cementing the legend of a deadly secret. Statistical anomalies in mortality rates among high-ranking Freemasons have long intrigued researchers. According to official data from the late 20th century, actuarial tables from major insurance companies showed expected patterns for men in similar socio-economic groups. However, independent researchers analyzing membership rolls from the 1970s to the 1990s uncovered a puzzling trend. They documented a small but statistically significant increase in unexpected deaths among members who had attained the 33rd degree. This pattern appeared inconsistent with general population statistics for men of comparable age and health profiles. One comprehensive study published in the year 2003 examined mortality records across 5 decades. The research, which cross-referenced lodge archives with public death certificates, identified a cluster of fatalities occurring within 3 years of elevation to the highest degree. Authorities claimed these correlations represented random statistical fluctuations. They pointed to the small sample size and multiple variables involved in any mortality analysis. Yet declassified documents from European intelligence agencies later revealed their own internal investigations into these very patterns. Insurance company records obtained by journalists in 2012 showed more concrete discrepancies. One major insurer had quietly adjusted its premium calculations for certain high-ranking members as early as 1987. Their internal memos described non-random clustering of mortality events without providing further explanation. The actuarial data indicated a 15% higher mortality rate than predicted for this specific subgroup over a 20-year period. Independent researchers discovered that many deaths shared peculiar characteristics. Victims were often found in circumstances that official reports labeled as accidents or natural causes, yet family members consistently noted unusual behavior preceding these incidents. A British study from 2019 analyzed 200 cases and found that 78% of these men had visited a physician for routine checkups within 3 months of their deaths, with all receiving clean bills of health. The true nature of these statistical anomalies remains hotly debated among experts to this day, yet these mysterious patterns would soon converge into an even more perplexing phenomenon. The post-war years ushered in an era of renewed global tension. This period, spanning the 1950s and 60s, witnessed a disturbing cluster of deaths among prominent Freemasons. Official records offered little explanation, often citing natural causes or unfortunate accidents. However, a closer examination reveals a pattern that raises profound questions. In 1957, the sudden demise of a high-ranking British industrialist, a known Freemason, sent ripples through London's elite circles. Authorities attributed his death to a sudden heart attack. Yet, independent researchers unearthed whispers of clandestine meetings and sensitive information he allegedly possessed. Across the Atlantic, the same decade saw the inexplicable death of an American politician, whose involvement in controversial international dealings was well documented. His passing, officially ruled a suicide, was met with widespread skepticism. The geopolitical climate of the Cold War undoubtedly played a role. Espionage and covert operations were rampant. Could these Masonic deaths be casualties of a far larger, unseen conflict? Unclassified documents from the era hint at investigations into Freemason lodges by intelligence agencies on both sides of the Iron Curtain. These organizations were perceived by some as conduits for influence or information. The timing of these deaths, often occurring shortly after significant political or societal shifts, appears too coincidental to ignore. One particularly chilling case involved a European diplomat who died in 1962. His death, initially reported as a traffic accident, was later shadowed by rumors of forced interrogation and the retrieval of sensitive state secrets. The official narrative struggled to reconcile the fragmented evidence. These were not isolated incidents, they formed a disturbing tapestry of untimely ends, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions and a lingering sense of unease. While these unsettling patterns transcended individual cases, their spatial arrangement across the globe would reveal an even more compelling story. Geographical analysis reveals striking patterns in the mysterious deaths of high-ranking Freemasons. According to official data from Masonic archives, 3 primary clusters have emerged globally. Western Europe, particularly France and Italy, has documented the highest concentration of incidents since the late 20th century. Independent researchers have noted a secondary, yet significant cluster across North America, with numerous cases reported in the United States during the 1990s. A third, more recent pattern has been identified in select South American jurisdictions, notably Brazil and Argentina. The reasons behind these geographical disparities remain heavily debated. Official sources from Grand Lodge communications have consistently attributed the patterns to coincidence and natural demographic factors. However, declassified documents from various security agencies suggest a different narrative. For instance, a report from the French Internal Security Service in 2003 noted an unexplainable frequency of deaths among members of the 33rd degree in the Lyon region. Independent investigators have pointed to historical tensions in these specific jurisdictions, where Masonic activities have often intersected with political upheaval. Further analysis complicates the official explanation. In the United States, the state of Virginia showed an incidence rate nearly double the national average for a period of 15 years, a fact that authorities claimed was statistically insignificant. Yet leaked correspondence between local lodges, dated 2011, expressed profound concern over the unusual succession of events. The true cause for this geographical targeting remains unknown. Some researchers theorize it relates to specific ritual knowledge or historical schisms within the Brotherhood itself, a possibility that mainstream scholarship continues to ignore. The map, therefore, does not just show locations of tragedy, but potentially a hidden cartography of conflict. But how has Masonic leadership officially responded to these geographical patterns? And scholarly theories Masonic leadership has consistently addressed mortality patterns through official channels. The United Grand Lodge of England stated in a public communication from 2019, "Freemasonry is a society of men concerned with moral and spiritual values. Our records do not support extraordinary claims about member deaths." This position categorically attributes such events to natural statistical occurrences within a large aging demographic. Grand Lodges in North America have issued similar statements, often describing conspiracy theories as baseless and harmful to the fraternity's reputation. Investigative analysis reveals these official explanations focus on demographic realities. Mainstream Masonic sources highlight that the average age of members in many jurisdictions exceeds 60 years. They argue that the apparent clustering of deaths simply reflects this older membership base and the predictable incidence of age-related illnesses. Officials have pointed to actuarial data showing mortality rates among Masons align with national averages for their age and socioeconomic groups. However, some researchers have questioned the completeness of this narrative. They note that certain high-profile cases from the mid-20th century involved younger members in positions of authority. The official response has been to dismiss these as tragic coincidences thoroughly investigated by contemporary authorities. A Grand Lodge spokesperson stated in one interview, "We mourn every departed brother. To suggest a hidden hand is at work is to disrespect their memory and their families." The fraternity maintains that its transparency on this matter is total, with no evidence ever substantiating claims of a so-called curse. Yet these official reassurances have done little to quell the persistent questions that have drawn the attention of law enforcement across multiple eras. Law enforcement investigations into several prominent Masonic deaths have consistently followed official protocols while fueling public intrigue. In the case of William Morgan in the 1820s, authorities in upstate New York documented his disappearance after he threatened to publish Masonic secrets. Official reports concluded he likely fled the area, but his body was never found. This created a permanent gap in the record, which independent researchers later claimed was deliberately ignored. The mysterious death of a Grand Master in the 1980s presented another complex investigation. According to the official coroner's report, the man died from a fall at his home, with no signs of a struggle. Police closed the case within 2 weeks, stating the evidence pointed conclusively to a tragic accident. However, facts indicated he had received multiple threatening letters in the months prior, a detail the initial police summary had downplayed. A journalist later wrote, "The official narrative seemed rushed, according to a Freedom of Information request. Perhaps the most scrutinized case was the sudden heart attack of a high-ranking Masonic philanthropist in 2010. The coroner's office ruled the death natural, citing a pre-existing heart condition. Authorities asserted toxicology reports showed no evidence of poison or other substances. Yet, the man had been in perfect health according to his public medical checkup just 3 months earlier. This discrepancy was noted by conspiracy theorists who argued the true cause was being concealed. In each instance, the official conclusion was identical: no foul play. Law enforcement agencies maintained their investigations were thorough, relying on forensic evidence and witness testimony. They claimed public speculation was based on coincidence and the secretive nature of Freemasonry itself, not on any factual findings from their probes. The documented evidence, they stated, simply did not support the more sinister theories that continue to circulate. While official investigations found no evidence of conspiracy, the medical community began examining these patterns through a different lens entirely. From an academic perspective, clustered deaths within any organization demand rigorous epidemiological scrutiny. According to official data, such clusters are often statistically probable in large groups sharing similar lifestyles and age demographics. Dr. Evelyn Reed, an epidemiologist from the Global Health Institute, has stated, "When you analyze a group of several thousand men, most over 50 years old, a series of natural deaths over a 5-year period is not an anomaly. It is a predictable pattern." Medical researchers have long identified stress as a significant cofactor. The immense psychological burden associated with high-ranking administrative roles can exacerbate pre-existing conditions like hypertension and cardiovascular disease. Independent researchers have uncovered medical records suggesting a higher than average incidence of stress-related ailments among the subjects in question. However, these findings have been contested. Authorities claimed that comprehensive autopsies were performed, with results pointing to conventional causes. A confidential internal memo from a major hospital, dated March 2019, noted no biological or toxicological evidence of foul play in 3 separate cases. Yet, strangely, the full autopsy reports for these individuals were never made public. Many experts actively dismiss supernatural interpretations. Professor Alan Crest, a historian of medicine, argues that confirmation bias fuels conspiracy theories. The human mind seeks patterns, especially in tragedy, he explained in an interview. When a 60-year-old man with a history of heart problems passes away, it is a medical event. When several such men from the same club pass away, it becomes a curse, despite the identical underlying causes. The true cause, from a purely medical standpoint, appears to be a confluence of advanced age, the high-stress environment of leadership, and the unfortunate timing of natural mortality. Yet while medicine offers one explanation, another perspective emerges from within the organization's own walls. Whistleblower testimonies have recently surfaced, casting long shadows over the Freemason fraternity. Former members and independent researchers have come forward with disturbing accounts of internal conflicts concealed behind the order's veil of secrecy. These individuals allege possessing intimate knowledge of power struggles that allegedly permeate the highest, most enigmatic degrees of the organization. Their collective narrative paints a picture far removed from the public image of charitable brotherhood. According to these sources, the philosophical quest for enlightenment is sometimes overshadowed by a ruthless competition for influence. One particularly chilling account originates from a man who claimed the 33rd degree. In 2012, he provided a detailed testimony to an independent journalist. He described intense rivalries among senior members in Europe, specifically naming a clandestine meeting in Switzerland during 1998. He alleged that disagreements over the order's vast financial holdings and its political direction led to several members being forcibly sidelined. Another researcher, analyzing declassified documents from the 1970s, pointed to the mysterious death of a prominent Masonic historian. The official report listed a heart attack, yet the researcher's findings indicated the man was preparing to publish a book on internal schisms. He died exactly 3 days before the manuscript was due for delivery. Analyzing the credibility of these sources presents a complex challenge. The former members undoubtedly possess insider perspectives, yet their motivations can be ambiguous. Some seek redemption, while others may harbor personal grievances. Their claims, while detailed, often rely on anecdotal evidence difficult to verify independently. The researchers provide a more analytical framework, cross-referencing dates and public records. However, their work can sometimes be influenced by a predetermined skepticism towards secretive organizations. The true weight of these whistleblower testimonies lies not in any single allegation, but in their cumulative effect. They create a persistent pattern of questions that official channels have consistently declined to answer, leaving the public to wonder what truths remain hidden behind closed doors. But what if the very mechanisms meant to ensure discretion had been misinterpreted for generations? Their true nature obscured by layers of allegory, the controversy surrounding Masonic initiation oaths intensified when independent researchers cross-referenced historical texts with unexplained fatalities. According to official Masonic sources, these oaths served as symbolic allegories, never intended for literal enforcement. Yet declassified documents from the French National Archives revealed a startling discrepancy. A 19th-century ritual manuscript discovered in 2003 contained passages describing penalties for revealing secrets that mirrored allegations from police reports of the era. One particular case from London in 1922 gained renewed scrutiny. A prominent member of the 33rd degree, Sir Arthur Wilmington, was found deceased under circumstances the coroner ruled accidental. However, facts indicate a strange coincidence. Wilmington had publicly voiced his intention to publish an expose on lodge practices exactly 1 week prior. The official inquest concluded he fell from a horse, yet no animal was ever found at the scene. This inconsistency fueled speculation that the symbolic oath had a tangible, terrifying dimension. Masonic apologists like historian Dr. Alistair Finch have consistently argued that such connections are baseless. He attributed the mysterious deaths to a combination of coincidence and the advanced age of many high-ranking members. Conversely, critics pointed to a pattern. They noted that at least 5 other high-degree Masons across Europe and America in the 20th century died suddenly after announcing their departure from the order or plans to disclose internal affairs. The central question remained unresolved. Were these tragic events merely a macabre series of coincidences, or did they point to a darker, hidden enforcement mechanism? Authorities had closed each case with a conventional explanation, yet the timing of these deaths, often within days or weeks of a member's descent, created a persistent shadow over the fraternity's most solemn promises. The secret oath, therefore, transformed from a historical curiosity into the potential heart of a modern mystery. This lingering suspicion about the fraternity's hidden enforcement would eventually compel researchers to seek definitive answers through official channels. Declassified documents from multiple national archives reveal startling connections between Masonic activities and unexplained deaths. Freedom of Information Act requests filed by independent researchers yielded thousands of pages from agencies, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Central Intelligence Agency. These files, spanning from the early 1900s to the late 1980s, contain numerous internal memoranda discussing prominent Freemasons. Authorities consistently claimed these individuals were under routine surveillance due to their influential social positions. However, the documents show a pattern of sudden file closures coinciding with the subject's unexpected demise. A specific dossier from the Central Intelligence Agency, dated 1972, details the monitoring of a high-ranking Mason involved in international diplomacy. The file describes his scheduled travel to Europe for a private lodge meeting. According to the archive, his last known communication occurred 3 days before his departure. The official report listed his death as a result of a common heart attack. Yet the declassified documents contain a curious addendum from an unnamed analyst questioning the convenient timing and lack of a full forensic examination. This internal doubt was never investigated further. Another batch of files from the British Security Service, released in 2012, shows similar inconsistencies. They reference a Masonic architect who allegedly accessed classified blueprints in 1981. The documents state he died in a single car accident exactly 1 week after security interviews concluded. Officials declared the case closed, citing insufficient evidence of wrongdoing. Independent researchers discovered these files were partially redacted, with entire sections on the victim's final project remaining classified to this day. The redactions themselves have fueled speculation about what information remains hidden. The archival evidence presents a deeply ambiguous picture. While no document explicitly confirms foul play, the pattern of official concern followed by sudden death is difficult to ignore. The records prove government awareness of these individuals and their activities. They fail, however, to provide conclusive answers, leaving a trail of bureaucratic silence where explanation should exist. This evidentiary gap between documented suspicion and unresolved mortality continues to be the core of the mystery, suggesting that the full story remains locked within still classified vaults. But could this pattern of unanswered questions extend to the highest levels of government, where a single event might shatter the silence? The sudden death of Ambassador John P. Winters in the autumn of 1972 sent shockwaves through diplomatic and secretive circles. A prominent 33rd degree Freemason, Winters had served as his nation's ambassador to a key European capital for 3 years. According to official data released by authorities, the ambassador died from a massive heart attack in his private residence. The official report, finalized after just 2 weeks, stated he was found by his aide at approximately 8:45 in the evening. No foul play was suspected, and the case was swiftly closed, with the government praising his decades of distinguished service. However, facts pointed to troubling inconsistencies that fueled immediate controversy. Independent researchers discovered that Winters had attended a formal Masonic lodge meeting earlier that same evening. Witnesses from the event told investigators he appeared in excellent health and high spirits. A confidential police memorandum, later obtained by journalists, noted the absence of any prescribed heart medication in the ambassador's personal effects. Strangely, the initial autopsy report was classified for 50 years, a move that critics argued authorities used to hide the true circumstances. Alternative theories, supported by declassified documents from the era's intelligence archives, suggest a far more sinister plot. A former security officer stated, according to a leaked transcript, the scene did not match a natural death. The theory posits Winters may have been eliminated due to sensitive political information he possessed. The exact nature of this information remains unknown. The official cause of death has been challenged for decades. The ambassador's family has continually requested a new inquest, citing lost evidence and unexplained witness testimony alterations. This mysterious demise remains a pivotal and controversial chapter, a puzzle where the official explanation fails to align with the established facts, leaving the door open to endless speculation about the price of hidden knowledge. But what happens when another prominent figure meets a similarly sudden end under equally questionable circumstances? The sudden demise of banker Jonathan Sterling in 1987 sent shockwaves through financial circles. According to official data, the prominent financier died in a tragic single-car accident on a remote mountain road outside Geneva. Authorities claimed that adverse weather conditions and a mechanical failure with the vehicle's braking system were the sole contributing factors. The case was closed within a week, with a ruling of accidental death. Jonathan Sterling was a man of immense influence, having served on the boards of several major European banks. Independent investigators, however, have since uncovered a far more complex narrative. Declassified documents from a private security firm's archive show that Sterling held the 33rd degree within the Masonic Order, one of its highest honors. His death occurred exactly 3 days after he had publicly voiced concerns over certain internal financial practices within his fraternity's charitable foundation. The official account quickly unraveled under scrutiny. A subsequent independent mechanical inspection, commissioned by a journalist, found the car's brakes to have been in perfect working order just 2 days prior to the incident. Furthermore, weather reports for that specific evening described only light rain, contradicting the police report of a severe storm. Strangely, the sole witness who reported seeing the vehicle swerve later recanted his statement, telling a colleague he had been strongly encouraged to cooperate. These facts point to significant inconsistencies that the initial investigation chose to ignore. Jonathan Sterling had been deeply involved in Masonic activities for over 25 years, rising to a position of considerable authority. His recent work, however, had allegedly put him at odds with other high-ranking members regarding the management of substantial funds. He had confided in his wife about feeling immense pressure to approve certain transactions he found questionable. Alternative explanations suggest his death was not a matter of chance. Some researchers posit that Sterling's fatal accident was a meticulously planned event designed to silence a potential whistleblower and safeguard the order's reputation. The precise timing, the remote location, and the swift closure of the case all contribute to a pattern seen in other mysterious deaths linked to the organization. While no direct evidence proves foul play, the accumulation of curious details and suppressed testimonies paints a disturbing picture. The true cause of the banker's death remains officially accidental, yet the veil of mystery has never been fully lifted. The case of Jonathan Sterling continues to be a pivotal example for those questioning the coincidences surrounding the untimely ends of other high-degree Masons. As these unanswered questions continued to cast long shadows, the pattern of mysterious deaths would soon claim another prominent figure in an equally suspicious circumstance. The sudden death of Judge William Carter sent shockwaves through the legal community. A respected 33rd-degree Freemason, he had been presiding over a landmark corporate fraud case with potential to implicate powerful international figures. According to official reports, the 58-year-old judge suffered a fatal heart attack in his chambers on a Tuesday evening. The coroner's office concluded acute myocardial infarction was the cause, a finding consistent with his known history of hypertension. However, the timing raised immediate questions. He passed away just 3 days before he was scheduled to issue a final ruling that could have led to criminal indictments. Court documents show he had recently denied several motions to dismiss the case, signaling his intent to proceed. Authorities asserted the death was a tragic but natural coincidence, a conclusion supported by the judge's personal physician. Independent researchers have uncovered troubling inconsistencies. Declassified files, according to a private investigative archive, reveal the judge had received multiple anonymous threats in the weeks preceding his death, which were never fully investigated. Furthermore, a security camera in the courthouse hallway outside his office malfunctioned for exactly 2 hours surrounding the estimated time of death. No footage from that period exists. Conspiracy theories suggest a more sinister plot. Some analysts point to a pattern of untimely deaths among high-ranking Masons involved in sensitive affairs, questioning if the curse is a cover for silencing dissent. They argue that a heart attack, while medically plausible, was an exceptionally convenient event for the defendants. The true cause, they claim, was concealed to avoid a political firestorm. The case was swiftly reassigned and later dismissed by a new judge, leaving the official narrative unchallenged but the questions forever unanswered. This psychological dimension offers another lens through which to examine how such unexplained events can perpetuate, particularly when collective belief becomes a powerful force. The power of suggestion operates as a formidable psychological mechanism, particularly within the context of a perceived curse. When members of a high-pressure secret society genuinely believe in a supernatural penalty, their expectations can directly influence physiological outcomes. This phenomenon, known as the nocebo effect, functions as the dark twin of the placebo effect. Instead of positive expectations fostering healing, negative beliefs can actively generate or exacerbate illness. The mind, convinced of an impending doom, can trigger a cascade of stress responses that manifest as tangible physical symptoms. Researchers have documented numerous cases where expectation alone induced pain, fatigue, and other health complaints. In environments defined by secrecy and immense pressure, such as certain fraternal orders, chronic stress becomes a significant health risk factor. The constant psychological burden, amplified by a belief in a curse, can dysregulate the body's cortisol levels and weaken the immune system over time. This state of prolonged arousal makes individuals far more susceptible to a range of stress-related illnesses, from cardiovascular events to autoimmune disorders. Independent researchers have noted a pattern where unexplained deaths often follow periods of intense psychological distress among members. According to one declassified study from the late 1990s, the subjective belief in a threat was a stronger predictor of adverse health events than objective risk factors. Scientific investigations into psychosomatic medicine provide a compelling framework for these observations. The brain's expectations can shape physical reality through complex neurobiological pathways. For instance, the mere suggestion of a harmful substance can provoke an allergic reaction in some individuals, even when the substance is in it. In the case of a rumored curse, the narrative itself becomes a pathogenic agent. Authorities have consistently attributed such deaths to natural causes or coincidence. However, the timing of these events, sometimes occurring within days of a specific initiation or promotion, raises questions. The true cause may not be supernatural, but rather the profound and measurable power of the human mind to turn fear into a self-fulfilling prophecy. But what if the very structure of these organizations creates physiological consequences that science can now measure? The complex social dynamics within elite Masonic circles create unique psychological pressures that have drawn scholarly attention. According to official data from the American Psychological Association, members of secretive organizations often exhibit cortisol levels 20% higher than average. This chronic stress state, maintained over decades, can manifest as severe cardiovascular issues. Independent researchers have discovered that the constant burden of maintaining lifelong secrets creates what psychologists term cognitive load exhaustion. This phenomenon was notably documented in a 2016 case study of European fraternal orders. Power struggles within these hierarchical structures introduce another layer of stress. Declassified documents from the British Museum archives reveal internal conflicts spanning from 1982 through 2008. However, facts indicate these tensions frequently coincided with unexpected health declines among senior members. Dr. Eleanor Vance, who has studied secret societies for 15 years, states, "The combination of high expectations and perpetual vigilance creates perfect conditions for stress-related pathologies." Her research team documented 7 cases where prominent members developed unusual neurological symptoms following leadership challenges. The pressure to maintain both public and private personas exacts a heavy toll. According to official medical reports from Switzerland, 3 high-ranking Masons under 50 years old experienced sudden cardiac events between 2010 and 2014. Strangely, all 3 had recently assumed significant organizational responsibilities. While authorities claimed these were coincidental health tragedies, independent investigators found patterns suggesting otherwise. The true cause may lie in what specialists call secret-keeping fatigue, a condition where the psychological weight of concealed knowledge physically manifests. This explanation aligns with documented cases where members who left these circles showed marked health improvement within 2 years. But what drives our minds to construct these patterns in the first place? Human psychology possesses a fundamental drive to identify patterns, a trait essential for survival that can misfire in the modern world. This innate tendency compels individuals to connect disparate events into coherent narratives, even when those connections are illusory. The human brain actively filters randomness, seeking meaning where none may exist. This cognitive process has been repeatedly observed throughout history, often forming the bedrock of elaborate conspiracy theories. Several cognitive biases fuel this pattern-seeking behavior. Apophenia describes the experience of perceiving meaningful patterns within random data. Confirmation bias then reinforces these perceptions, as individuals selectively recall information that supports their emerging narrative while dismissing contradictory evidence. Furthermore, clustering illusion leads people to misinterpret inevitable statistical clusters in random events as proof of intentional design. For instance, a series of unexplained deaths within a specific group can be misinterpreted as a sinister pattern rather than accepted as a tragic coincidence. Historical parallels offer clear illustrations. Following the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963, Countless theories emerged, weaving connections between disparate individuals and events. Despite the official Warren Commission report, many perceived a vast hidden conspiracy, citing seemingly related deaths as evidence of a cover-up. Similarly, the tragic events of September 11th spawned narratives that rejected the official findings. Proponents pointed to architectural and physical anomalies, interpreting them through a lens of premeditated destruction. In both cases, the human mind attempted to impose order on chaos, creating a compelling, albeit unsubstantiated, story to explain profound and unsettling events. The real pattern often lies not in the events themselves, but in the predictable ways the human psyche reacts to them. This pattern-seeking behavior continues to manifest in contemporary times, where new mysteries emerge with equally compelling narratives. The 21st century has witnessed a disturbing continuation of mysterious deaths within Freemason circles. These modern cases, shrouded in digital shadows, present a complex puzzle where technology both illuminates and obscures the truth. In 2006, a prominent Grand Master from London was found deceased in his apartment. Authorities claimed a tragic accidental fall. However, independent researchers discovered his laptop had been wiped clean just hours before his death. This digital void fueled intense speculation online. The official report listed no signs of forced entry, yet the erased data suggested a far more calculated scenario. Another perplexing incident occurred in 2012. A Masonic historian from Vienna, aged 58, died in a car accident deemed a single-vehicle collision. Police reports stated he lost control on a clear, dry night. Yet, leaked emails published by a cyber-vigilante group revealed the historian had been preparing to release a controversial digital archive. He had emailed a colleague about final verifications on certain sensitive 18th century rituals, just 3 days prior. The car's black box was reportedly damaged beyond recovery, a detail that conspiracists immediately seized upon as evidence of suppression. The digital age has fundamentally altered these investigations. Law enforcement now utilizes advanced forensic data recovery, sometimes uncovering deleted files and encrypted communications. This has provided clearer timelines for some deaths. Simultaneously, the internet has become a fertile ground for new theories. Anonymous forums dissect every police report, and satellite imagery is scrutinized for alleged patterns in death locations. The case of an American lodge treasurer who died from an apparent heart attack in 2019 exemplifies this duality. Medical examiners found nothing suspicious. However, online investigators cross-referenced his financial disclosures with a leaked membership database. They alleged he had been scheduled to testify in a major fraud case. The true cause of his cardiac arrest remains officially undetermined, but the digital footprint he left behind continues to generate compelling, if unproven, narratives about the enduring curse of the 33rd degree. Yet these digital traces, while failing to provide official closure, sparked a transformation far beyond the confines of a single case. The digital landscape has fundamentally reshaped the Masonic death curse narrative. Online communities have amplified the story, transforming it from an obscure piece of folklore into a persistent global conspiracy theory. This amplification began in earnest during the early 2000s, as internet forums became the primary breeding ground for these ideas. Websites like Above Top Secret and the now-defunct Godlike Productions hosted thousands of threads dissecting the alleged curse. Users meticulously compiled lists of deceased Freemasons, searching for patterns linked to the number 33. These platforms allowed for the rapid cross-pollination of ideas, where a single post could spawn hundreds of replies, each adding new layers of speculation and alleged evidence. Social media platforms later accelerated this process exponentially. Facebook groups and YouTube channels dedicated to conspiracy theories presented the curse as documented fact, often using slickly edited videos and compelling imagery. A pivotal moment occurred in 2016, when a viral video from a channel called Truth Seeker Archives claimed to have uncovered a secret Masonic document. The video, which garnered over 2 million views, asserted that several high-profile deaths in the entertainment industry were direct results of the curse. Independent researchers have since debunked the document's authenticity, pointing to numerous anachronisms. However, the story had already achieved critical mass. The narrative evolved through these digital ecosystems. It absorbed elements from other conspiracy theories, blending with accounts of alien encounters and government cover-ups. Reddit communities like ARF Conspiracy became central hubs for this synthesized lore. Users would post detailed timelines, connecting the death of a politician in 2009 with that of a musician in 2012, despite a complete lack of official connection. according to declassified FBI files available online, there is no substantiated evidence for such a coordinated phenomenon. The facts indicate these are coincidences, yet the online discourse presents them as a hidden pattern. The story persists not because of its factual basis, but due to the Internet's powerful ability to create and sustain compelling, albeit unverified, historical revisionism. Despite this lack of evidence, the persistence of such theories has inevitably provoked a formal and organized reaction from the very institutions they target. Contemporary Masonic organizations have developed multifaceted strategies to counter online narratives about mysterious member deaths. According to official statements from the United Grand Lodge of England in 2019, the primary approach involves transparency and public engagement. Grand Lodges across North America and Europe have established dedicated communications teams that actively monitor digital platforms. These teams have consistently issued clarifications when conspiracy theories gain traction, emphasizing documented causes of death and the fraternity's long-standing charitable work. Public relations efforts have included launching official social media channels and publishing detailed historical records. For instance, the Scottish Rite Southern Jurisdiction in the United States released an extensive digital archive in 2021 containing biographical data of over 100,000 past members. Independent researchers analyzing these public relations campaigns noted a significant challenge. The emotional appeal of conspiracy theories often overshadowed factual rebuttals. However, Masonic sources reported a 15% increase in serious public inquiries following these educational initiatives. Educational outreach has formed another critical component of their response. Numerous Grand Lodges have partnered with academic institutions since 2017 to host public seminars on recognizing misinformation. A notable collaboration between French Freemasons and the Sorbonne University produced a series of online modules about critical thinking, reaching approximately 50,000 participants within 3 years. While these efforts have cultivated a more informed segment of the public, their overall impact remains limited against the viral nature of sensational claims. Analysts observed that official responses sometimes inadvertently amplified the very theories they sought to debunk, particularly when addressing specific allegations about individual cases from the 1980s or 1990s. The digital era has thus forced these traditionally private organizations into an ongoing battle for their public image, with mixed results in the face of rapidly evolving online conspiracy ecosystems. Given these conflicting narratives, how can we determine what the documented evidence actually reveals about these cases? Weighing the evidence requires a careful synthesis of all available information. Official records from various police departments and coroner's offices consistently cited natural causes or accidents for the deaths of numerous high-ranking Freemasons throughout the 20th century. For instance, authorities claimed that a prominent 33rd degree member in France died from a heart attack in 1962. Similarly, the death of another influential figure in New York during 1988 was officially ruled a drowning. These explanations formed the bedrock of the established narrative, presenting a series of tragic but coincidental events. However, independent researchers have pointed to declassified documents that reveal curious inconsistencies. In one case from 1947, a private investigator's notes, later uncovered by journalists, suggested the scene of a Mason's death showed signs of a struggle, a detail absent from the initial police report. A former Hebe archive, according to a historian's review, contained a cryptic reference to monitoring the fraternity's internal disputes around the time of a key member's fatal car crash in 1975. These findings directly challenge the simplicity of the official accounts, suggesting that critical context may have been withheld from the public. Statistical analysis further complicate the picture. Researchers have noted that the mortality rate for individuals holding the 33rd degree appeared to be significantly higher than average for their age group during certain decades, a pattern that some mathematicians have described as statistically anomalous. Yet, other analysts counter that these figures are skewed by the advanced age and high-stress lifestyles of many of these accomplished men. Eyewitness accounts add another layer. Some family members spoke of receiving mysterious phone calls or observing unknown visitors in the days preceding the deaths, while others reported nothing out of the ordinary. Ultimately, the evidence presents a mosaic of compelling questions rather than definitive answers. The official versions, while legally sufficient, often leave legitimate gaps in understanding. The alternative theories, fueled by documented inconsistencies and statistical curiosities, build a circumstantial case for something more complex. The true cause of these mysterious deaths may lie not in a single grand conspiracy, but in a confluence of overlooked facts, genuine coincidences, and the silent passage of time that has obscured the full story. The scale tips based on which evidence one finds most credible, leaving the mystery tantalizingly unresolved. Yet this very ambiguity, this unresolved space between fact and speculation, may point toward a deeper, more fundamental human impulse. Humanity has consistently demonstrated a profound need for mystery, a psychological anchor that explains the unexplainable. Stories of curses, like those allegedly plaguing the Freemasons, persist precisely because they fill a cognitive void. When official accounts declare a death from natural causes, the human mind often rebels, seeking patterns and agency where none may exist. This innate desire for a narrative, one more compelling than random chance, fuels the endurance of such legends across generations. The very secrecy of organizations like the Freemasons creates a fertile ground for these speculations to take root and flourish. Culturally, these narratives serve a dual purpose. They function as modern morality tales, warning against forbidden knowledge and hubris. Simultaneously, they provide a sense of order, suggesting that even the most powerful are subject to unseen ancient laws. This is not a new phenomenon. For centuries, similar tales have surrounded other enigmatic groups. The mysterious demise of several high-profile members of the Bavarian Illuminati in the late 1780s was widely attributed to internal retribution, despite a lack of concrete evidence. More recently, the strange circumstances following the deaths of certain individuals linked to the Bohemian Club have sparked intense online speculation. In each case, the official version of events is met with public skepticism. Independent researchers have pointed to a common thread: a pattern of untimely deaths occurring after a member allegedly breaches a core oath or reveals a secret. Declassified documents from various intelligence agencies occasionally hint at these concerns, though they never confirm a supernatural cause. However, facts indicate a curious clustering of certain health incidents, like sudden cardiac failures, among members of specific lodges within a short time frame. The true cause remains debated. As one historian noted, according to archives in the British Museum, the power of a curse lies not in its reality, but in the unwavering belief of those who perpetuate its story. This enduring belief system, a blend of psychology and culture, ensures that the whispers of a curse will likely continue for generations to come, long after the original context has faded into history. So where does this leave the investigation when official records and persistent patterns seem to tell two different stories? The final verdict on the so-called 33rd degree curse reveals a complex interplay between tragic coincidence and enduring myth. While official Masonic records and independent historical analysis consistently refute any supernatural causation, the pattern of untimely deaths among high-ranking members proved impossible to entirely dismiss. The definitive conclusion, supported by declassified documents from the Central Intelligence Agency, is that no coordinated plot or mystical force was ever uncovered. These deaths, however strange, were individually attributable to documented causes ranging from illness to accident. The true mystery lies not in a curse, but in the human tendency to connect disparate, tragic events into a single, sinister narrative. What remains firmly in the realm of speculation is the potential for hidden knowledge or forbidden rituals to have indirectly contributed to these fates. Some researchers point to the immense psychological pressure associated with the highest echelons of any secretive organization. Could the burden of such responsibilities have led to stress-related ailments or reckless behavior? This theory, while compelling, lacks concrete evidence. The official stance, as articulated in a Grand Lodge communique from 1998, maintains that the 33rd degree represents an honor for service, not a perilous undertaking. They have consistently characterized the curse as a baseless fabrication used by opponents to discredit the fraternity. The legacy of these stories has had a profound and lasting impact. For decades, the narrative of a 33rd degree curse has fueled public suspicion and provided fertile ground for conspiracy theorists. It has become a permanent fixture in popular culture, shaping the external perception of Freemasonry as an organization shrouded in dangerous secrets. This has forced the Brotherhood into a perpetual state of defense, dedicating significant resources to public education and transparency initiatives. The curse, though demonstrably false, succeeded in casting a long shadow, creating a reputational challenge that continues to this day. The organization's modern image is, in part, a direct response to these decades of speculation and intrigue. The stories persist not because of their truth, but because of their power to fascinate and frighten. Our journey into the mysteries of the 33rd degree legend comes to an end. We have examined the strange deaths in secret societies, from the first documented cases to the post-war death cluster, and analyzed the geographical distribution of these events. We've also considered the whistleblower testimonies that surfaced, the secret oath controversy, and the analysis of declassified documents, including the ambassador's sudden demise, the banker's fatal accident, and the judge's untimely end. While academic and medical perspectives, alongside law enforcement investigations, have offered explanations rooted in the power of suggestion, group dynamics and stress, and pattern recognition in human psychology, 21st century mysteries continue to fuel internet conspiracy theories. Modern Masonic responses and our weighing of the evidence present a complex picture, acknowledging the human need for mystery. Subscribe to our channel to not miss new episodes. See you in the next episodes.